Hello everyone, this is Jake from CINECALIBER and welcome back to my channel. Today's video I will be reviewing the drama. It's a newly released drama. um, so I want to start this one off with a little personal story. I took my wife to see this film for our 5th wedding anniversary. Now she's a big Robert Pattinson fan, so that was really the driving force behind the whole choice of going to see this film. I honestly didn't go in with high expectations. I thought, okay, A24 romantic drama, probably pretty good, probably a little artsy, we'll enjoy it and move on. What I did not expect was to walk out of that cinema absolutely floored, genuinely questioning things about relationships, about trust, about secrets, and honestly about myself. And when a film does that to you, that's when you know it's something special. So yeah, today we're talking about the drama, the 2026 A24 film starring Robert Pattinson and Zendaya, directed by Christopher Borgli. We are going to break this one down properly, the production background, what worked, what didn't, and ultimately whether this is worth your time. So let's get into the production background. Like I said before we get into the actual film, I always like to give a little bit of background, the people behind it, because I think it really helps frame what we're watching here. So first up, we have the director, Christopher Borgli, who I mentioned earlier. Now, if you haven't heard of this guy yet, get familiar, because he's one of the most interesting directors working right now. He's Norwegian, born in 1985, and his path into filmmaking is genuinely fascinating. He's largely self-taught, drew his biggest inspirations from David Lynch and the Coen brothers, and his career started with things like skateboarding videos and music promos before he transitioned into narrative filmmaking. His feature filmography is short but punchy. He debuted with Drib in 2017, which was this wild mockumentary about a fictional energy drink. Then came Sick of Myself in 2022, a darkly comic film about narcissism and identity that actually got nominated at Cannes, I believe. And then Dream Scenario in 2023 with Nicolas Cage, which if you haven't seen that film, go watch it after this. The drama is his 4th feature and his 2nd English language film with A24. Now on the producing side, and this is where it gets really exciting for me, we have Ari Aster and Lars Knudsen under their production company Square Peg. Ari Aster is, in my opinion, one of the best horror directors working today. Hereditary, Midsommar, the man knows how to build dread and discomfort, and that sensibility absolutely carries into this production, even though it's not a horror film. Lars Knudsen is an incredibly experienced producer. His credits include The Witch, American Honey, Hereditary as well, and he's behind some of the most distinctive films of the last decade. This is actually Square Peg's 2nd collaboration with Borgli after Dream Scenario, so there's a real creative shorthand here. In terms of the production schedule, the project was first announced in August 2024 with Borgli attached to write and direct. Zendaya and Pattinson came on board shortly after. Principal photography kicked off on October 21st, 2024 in the UK, then it moved to Boston, which is where most of the film is set. Additional shooting was in New York, LA, New Orleans. They wrapped in mid-December 2024. Total budget was around $28 million, and as of now, I believe it's crossing $49 million at the worldwide box office. So commercially, it is doing very well. But let's talk about the film itself. What the film is about. No major spoilers. See, this film is the best experience with as little prior knowledge as possible. I'll give you the setup and flag when I'm going to get into spoiler territory. So the film follows Charlie and Emma, played by Pattinson and Zendaya, a happily engaged couple who are 1 week away from getting married. They're adorable together, charming, the kind of couple you look at and think, yeah, those two are going to be fine. And then comes a scene that changes everything. During a pre-wedding dinner with their close friends, Mike and Rachel, played by Mamadou Athie and Alana Haim, the group decides to play a game where everyone has to confess the worst things they've ever done before the wedding. And what Emma reveals in that moment sends the entire film into free fall. I'm not going to tell you what it is, obviously. What I will tell you is that it recontextualizes everything that you've seen up to that point. And what follows is one of the most brilliantly uncomfortable, darkly funny, emotionally raw final acts I've seen in a long time. This is a film about trust, secrets, forgiveness, and the question of whether love can survive complete honesty. It's heavy stuff, but it's delivered in a way that I had both me and my wife genuinely laughing out loud in the cinema, which, again, honestly surprised me. So that said, what was a hit with this film? The good? There's a lot of good stuff. First and foremost, the performances. These are career highlight performances from both Pattinson and Zendaya. Every scene they share kept me completely invested. The vulnerability, the tension, the way the relationship unravels in real time, it's captivating. And what makes it work is that these feel like real people. The writing gives them room to be flawed and relatable, and both actors absolutely deliver on that. Pattinson in particular deserves a massive shout out here. He builds Charlie up as this tame, charming, slightly bumbling British gentleman, and then the film proceeds to dismantle him piece by piece. Watching that unravel is genuinely delightful in the most uncomfortable way possible. And a lot of the film's dark comedy comes from Charlie's mental spirals and his worst case scenario daydreams. Pattinson plays all of this with such physical and emotional commitment. It's really sticks with you guys. I would say the second major highlight is Borgli's direction and the film's tone. If you've seen Dream Scenario or Sick of Myself, you know this man has a very specific dark comic sensibility. He operates in this space that's simultaneously absurd, funny, and genuinely upsetting. And the drama walks that tonal tightrope brilliantly. It is unhinged and messy and funny all at once, and it completely earns every one of those descriptors. The central premise in that confession scene in particular, that is the standout moment of the film for me. The way Borgli builds tension in that scene, the pacing, the reactions, it's a masterclass in squirm-inducing filmmaking. And from that moment on, the themes of trust, secrets, and moral hypocrisy just snowball in the best possible way. And then there's the supporting cast. And I have to talk about Alana Haim's Rachel, because this character is something else entirely. Rachel is essentially the Gen Z version of Regina George from Mean Girls, but basically updated for 2026 in a way that feels genuinely new. She doesn't throw a drink in anyone's face. She doesn't call anyone names. Instead, she co-opts the language of progressive values and moral accountability to launch what is ultimately a socially acceptable takedown. And that makes her far more dangerous than any traditional villain. She doesn't attack Emma, she frames her. She basically embodies a new kind of villainy that is born entirely from the culture we currently live in. Haim is fantastic in this role, and I think it opens up a lot of doors for her going forward. With all that said, guys, that is all that was a hit. We're gonna talk about what was a miss, the bad. So, like any film, the drama is not a perfect film. There are a couple things that I think are worth flagging here. The biggest one for me was the imbalance between Pattinson and Zendaya's roles. Zendaya is genuinely good in this film. Her performances are layered and interior and emotionally intelligent, but the writing just doesn't give her as much to work with as it gives Pattinson. Charlie gets the breakdowns, the comedy, the big swings. Emma, for most of the film, is largely reactive. For a film where Emma's revelation is the entire catalyst, it's a bit of an odd creative choice to then sideline her character in the second and third acts. It created a tonal imbalance that I noticed, and I think others will too. The second issue is the ending. Now, I want to be careful here because I actually appreciate where Borgli was going for, and I don't think an ambiguous ending is automatically a problem. The film's message is strong enough to support it, but the execution left me wanting one final beat. The third act gets increasingly chaotic and frantic, which works, but then the film ends quite abruptly without the kind of punctuation that all that tension was building towards. It felt like just maybe one more scene, one more twist, or one more moment of clarity really could have elevated this from a great film to an exceptional film. But so now we're going to get into the conclusion here. Was this a film of caliber? So where do I stand? Where do I land on the drama overall? This is genuinely one of the best films I've seen so far this year. From Borgli's direction to the electrifying central performances, from the brilliant writing in that confession scene, to Alana Haim introducing us to a villain archetype we haven't really seen before, this film delivers. It's funny, uncomfortable, emotionally resonant, and the kind of film that sparks real conversations after the credits roll. And for me personally, taking my wife on our anniversary and walking out of that cinema, both feeling genuinely moved and wanting to talk about what we had just seen, that is that's what going to cinema is supposed to feel like. The minor complaints around Zendaya's underwriting and the slightly unsatisfying ending are real, but they don't derail what is otherwise a confident, provocative, and memorable film. I would give this film a final rating of an 8 out of a 10 for me, guys. I thought it was really that good. And again, if you guys have seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really curious where people land on the ending, especially. And if you haven't seen it yet, go in as blind as possible. Trust me on that one. But as always, thank you guys for watching, if you have. And this is Jake from CINECALIBER, and I'll see you in the next video.